Welcome to video 13.2. Today we're going to talk about the translations of mixed functions. So if you'll recall, the graph of y equals x. This is a parent function because it's in the basic form, and I know the slope and y-intercept by looking at the equation. The slope is 1 over 1, and the y-intercept is 0. So now if I go over to my graph, I can graph that by putting the y-intercept at 0 and then graphing my points going up 1, right 1. And also down 1, back 1 to graph other points. Once you have enough to connect with a straight edge, you can get your straight edge and connect with a nice straight line. And then we can put arrows on either side and label our function y equals x. So we're going to use this to look at some new functions. This is the most basic linear function. Now we're going to look at y equals the absolute value of x. In order to graph that, you need a new button in our calculator. You're going to go to y equals, you're going to hit math, and then scroll along the top over 1 to num. The first option is ABS with a parenthesis, that's absolute value. So you're going to hit enter, and then you're going to put in the x and close your parentheses or get out of the absolute value bars. Then we can look at the table, and we should see similar to a parabola where we have the same y values repeating on either side, we'll see that happen in absolute values. So I'm going to look for where I see the same values above and below. That happens starting at an x value of -3. So I wrote down the table showing that -3 is paired with 3, -2 with 2, -1, 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 2, and 3, 3. So you can see here 3 at the top, 3 at the bottom. Same numbers going in my y column. Now we can go ahead and graph those points. And once you've graphed the points, you can connect again with a straight edge, because if we look at the graph in the calculator by hitting the graph, we can see that it goes straight in either direction. So we can see that the graph looks like a V, and I'll label that y equals the absolute value of x. Then the question asks me, how are the graphs of absolute value of x and the x squared related? I'm going to leave that for you to fill in. And how are the graphs, the absolute value of x and y equals x, the one above, related? And then we're going to talk about how the graphs are different. So I'm going to leave all those blank for you to go ahead and fill in, thinking about what you see that is similar maybe to the parabolas or quadratic functions, and what's different, and what's similar to a line, a linear function, and what's different. The domain and range you should also be able to fill in for the absolute value of x. Domain, remember, are our x values, and range are the y values. And then you're going to graph this absolute value of x plus 2, making sure that both things are in between the absolute value bars. Then you'll have some more questions to do tomorrow, graphing the following functions on your calculator and identifying where the vertex and the domain and range are for each function. This is all in your calculator, so you don't really have to write anything down as far as a table because we're not graphing it. We're just looking at the function, finding the vertex, domain, and range for each of them. Then, from those, we'll try to make observations based off of this and what we did in the previous video to come up with some rules that we can use to write the equations with translations. Remember that translations are when things happen to our parent functions, the most basic form, and we're going to go ahead and try to identify what those changes look like in the equation. So we'll continue this in class. It's a short video, but just kind of a way to look at some of the ideas that we'll explore more in class.